This is the Paltalk News Network.
The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the Internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube. And on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio. We're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. And I'm reminding you once again that you should be going to www.paltalknewsnetwork.com if you really want to stay informed. And I'm going to recommend that if you read nothing else there today, that you read Robert Garcia's Weekend Review piece. I got to tell you, I was laughing out loud. My son read it. He was laughing out loud. We had a ball reading his stuff. And it's good. It's a good read from start to finish. Don't miss it. A lot of other great stuff there as well that you may or may not hear, see, or read about in the mainstream media. Before we get to our guest, Bill Silberg, I want to remind you that the next live interview on Make It Pro TV will be Tuesday at 8 o'clock New York time. My guest will be champion pro paintballer Johnny Perchak, Perchak. Paintball is one of the fastest growing sports. You don't want to miss hearing about the sport from the very best. That's on Make It Pro TV next Tuesday at 8 o'clock New York time on Paltalk.com. Monday, we have two great guests lined up. We will have at 5 o'clock a woman who will tell you that if you're donating to a cause over the holiday season, like many of us do, the best way to avoid getting scammed and make sure that your money gets put to good use. I think that's a very apropos and timely interview. And at 5:30, we're going to have a NASA researcher on live on News Talk Online on the Paltalk News Network to talk about the water that they found up there on the moon when they crashed the rocket into the moon and the water vapors that came up and what that means in our search for life extraterrestrially. Live from NASA headquarters. That's at 5:30 on Monday. You don't want to miss that. I know when we do the launches and the dockings and the landings of the space shuttle, we get some of our best numbers here on the Paltalk News Network. So that's going to be really great. Bill Silberg, who a week ago today, I was at his house attempting to get my computer to work unsuccessfully, but he got his to work tonight, and I'm at my house, he's at his house, and we're going to try it once again because there have been some developments, Bill Silberg, on the Hill, as we put it, up there on Capitol Hill, towards getting some kind of health reform package passed, but it seems to be in flux. It's ever-changing. Can you fill us in as to what exactly is going on in Washington, D.C.?
I'll do my best, Gary. Before that, though, I'm wondering if you've heard if the NASA folks had found any of your missing relatives up there on the moon when they crashed into the surface there with all that water. I heard an uncle or two showed up. As far as Washington goes, you're right. There have been a number of developments in the past week. The main development being a reported agreement in the Senate on a compromise that presumably will push the health reform bill ahead. The two biggest issues, as you and your audiences will probably remember, are the question of whether there is some sort of a public plan that gets put into the health reform bill, and the second one being language about restricting coverage of abortion. the Senate rejected. Excuse me. The Senate rejected an amendment to limit abortion coverage in whatever was the final version of the bill. So we should talk a little bit about this issue of the public plan. And what came up was the public option, as it's called, creation of a publicly run and funded health insurance program that people could buy into, was taken out. And instead, the compromise that was agreed to was an expansion of Medicare, the government plan for the elderly, where once you turn 65, you are covered, expanding that so that people age 55 and older could buy in. So in effect, it's a public program with an age limit of 55, and presumably there would be other mechanisms for people younger than that who didn't have insurance to buy in with appropriate subsidies. I was just reading today, this was hailed in many circles as a compromise that most folks could live with. Of course, there will be people at both ends of the spectrum that don't like it, but the folks who are trying to push health reform are not trying to go for folks at both ends of the spectrum. They're going for a very narrow range of moderate Democrats, of conservative Democrats and moderate Republicans who are the key to getting this thing passed. And all was apparently sweetness and light until some of the conservative Democrats are now saying they're nervous about an expansion of Medicare. So it may still not be a done deal. Their discussions are supposed to go on through the weekend, and we'll see what happens. But that was the big supposed breakthrough to try to get the two sides closer together to allow a bill to come up for a vote in the Senate.
Here's what really perplexes me, Bill Silberg, about this whole situation. Under the original plan as proposed by this administration and by the leader of the United States Senate, Harry Reid, and by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, there was supposed to be some kind of a public option, and they were going to take money away from Medicare in order to fund the public option. And, of course, people got scared that they would lose Medicare benefits. They said, no, that wouldn't happen. But now they've gone in the opposite direction, and they consider it a victory. They are adding to Medicare. I guess I qualify, once this bill passes, if it does, for Medicare at my young age.
Yes, your lovely young age. I would qualify as well as of August. I think there's a couple of reasons why this was looked at. And one, again, we said last week that just as the health reform discussion is not new, talk of expanding Medicare is not new. There have been options on the table for years to essentially allow Medicare as an existing system that is publicly funded, that is generally considered to be reasonably efficient. Its administrative costs are quite low, and it's generally well liked by the people who are in Medicare. Most Medicare recipients